Let's talk about Nightwing. Nightwing is one of my favorite DC superheroes out there. When Dick Grayson started out being Batman's sidekick Robin, not a lot of people really like him because he's Robin and he gets kidnapped all the time, and Batman had to save him all the time. But as Nightwing, he started to grow into his own identity instead of being just the Batman's sidekick. And when he entered his young adult and teenage years, out of all of the DC characters out there, Nightwing is very well known for being witty, spirited, and he has the sorts of charms and that sexy hot ass that even straight men would pound. He's almost practically the James Bond of the DC universe. In fact, he's at one point literally James Bond. Nightwing is definitely quite a role model for everyone, so DC decided to pull off a storyline that I find very interesting. The storyline is called Nightwing The New Order, not to be confused with Wolfenstein The New Order, although it does have the same sort of vibe. So in this miniseries taking place in the far future that does not alter the Rebirth canon in any sort of way, Nightwing is practically Hitler who tries to gas all the superpowered heroes. They're turning Nightwing into a genocidal maniac. The once charming, nice-looking, really hot boy that steals the heart of every person in the DCU and every single fan around the world is now facing a universe in which he's a genocidal maniac and killing lots and lots of superheroes. You know, maybe it's just me, but I find stories of superheroes having moral, ethical dilemmas interesting. I find superheroes facing moral dilemmas and having no choice but to murder certain supervillains or do any other morally questionable things in order to save the world to be a very fascinating story. It opens up the superheroes to new challenges that they would never face and how they're able to deal with the consequences of those actions. A lot of writers forget that while superheroes doing morally questionable things are indeed very interesting, the consequences of them doing those morally questionable things are about as equally important. If not, I think the consequences are more important. I don't mind the story at all. I think it sounds interesting, and it's more interesting knowing that this doesn't really destroy the canon universe. This is just a what-if sorts of scenario, an Elseworld story, if you will. I do want to see an evil side of Dick Grayson. No, not that one. Of course, there are some people who have problems with the storyline, and not for a reason that you might think.
Dick Grayson versus toxic masculinity.
Well, I went out to buy some cheap canned beers just to get through this shit. Thanks for the $5.01 from PayPal, it really helps a lot. If you want to get me drunk through this shit, you can do so on PayPal, link down below. Also, huge thanks to our new patrons, Will Wrestle, TMF, and John. You guys are fantastic. Now that I am a little bit drunk, let's get reading. This should be fun.
Last Tuesday, DC announced an upcoming miniseries called Nightwing The New Order by Kyle Higgins and Trevor McCarthy, an out-of-continuity story in which Dick Grayson kills everyone in the DC universe who has superpowers. My feelings on this can be summed up pretty succinctly.
Linking to her own Twitter. Alright, let's have a read.
It is not 2015. Comics discourse is dominated by the Hydra Cap story and the backlash against it. Neo-Nazism is on the rise. The context in which DC Comics has chosen to publish a story about a Jewish creator romantic hero committing genocide matters.
Alright, first of all, it's not 2015. That is such a great defense for literally anything. And second of all, the context of which DC Comics published a story about a Jewish creator romantic hero committing genocide matters. Well, yes, in that very same article you cited, the context says that it takes place in the future where superpowers are outlawed and it's forbidden to the point where Dick probably has to take actions to murder them. I don't know what context you're talking about here, unless you're talking about how the Jews were gassed during World War II, which is completely irrelevant. Are you saying that Jewish-created characters cannot conform to genocidal tendencies? What?
CBR describes Dick as the most pure and true hero in the DC universe as a way of explaining why he's been chosen for this vehicle. And you know what? I get it. Everyone in the DCU loves Dick. Yeah, I'm getting the obvious jokes out of the way early. If you're going for shock value, he's a shrewd choice. But I think there's another reason this particular character was chosen for this particular story.
Oh, and what that particular reason might be, ma'am?
Dick Grayson makes straight men nervous.
What?
And he's been doing so from the start. Dick was created in the early 40s to line Batman up and give young readers a character their age to relate to, but he's also functioned as a useful story device. Not only could he go on adventures with Batman and give him someone to talk to, he could be imperiled and give Batman someone to save. Suddenly, Batman, who has never had one consistent love interest the way Superman has, had a damsel in distress who happened to be a little boy who lived with him.
Oh, so your argument is Dick Grayson was once speculated to be gay in the 40s and become Batman's love interest of some sort because he saved him a lot and he stayed at his house. Therefore, that makes straight men nervous. I can't follow your logic here. Remember that time where the Wonder Woman creators have a strange fetish with bondage? Those are very weird and very hot times. We're gonna need some modern interpretations of those. Maybe in the form of fan arts. Sorry, I got lost there. Anyway, my point still stands. No pun intended. Just because Wonder Woman has this really weird bondage fetish back in the old days doesn't mean that she's a demeaning, submissive character right now. She's a wonderful superhero icon. She's fantastic. Are you saying that her bondage fetish makes people who aren't into BDSM nervous? Okay, that's a bad analogy, but I'm just trying to decipher the logic here because you're making one hell of a leap. A miniseries where Nightwing kills superheroes is bad because the character was created by Jews and it made straight men nervous. I decided to do this article because the leap of logic is so mind-boggling. The writer then shows this comic strip, which... Let's read it.
It's a dirty trick, Bruce, making me go as Antoinette to your Louis XVI. David Tayson said that every Jedi had to bring his own lady. If we don't go to the first World Coaster Ball, we can't get stuck, okay? Besides, Master Dick, you do look rather cute, you know?
Don't you laugh! He and Oliver, this is not funny!
So, Dick Grayson was a trap?
If dislike is the opposite of like, is disaster the opposite of aster?
Anyway, the comic strip doesn't really prove anything. In fact, that proves Alfred is probably gay. Bruce Wayne clearly wants him to act as a lady, not because he's gay, but because he wants to catch a bad guy, and he can't catch the bad guy unless Dick enters the party as a girl. Dick clearly doesn't want it, and Alfred goes, "Oh, Dick, you look really cute in that outfit." You know, back then they didn't really define Dick's personality, but considering his personality now being a massively seductive charmer to both genders, he can probably play the female role very well. He's a circus guy, for God's sake. Performance and acting and winning the crowds are his bread and butter. He can pull it off very well. He would make one hell of a convincing trap, even as an adult. I would be interested to see either Tim Drake or Damian Wayne in that sort of role. Considering that both Robins are the more serious and methodical Robins out of all of them, it would be a hell of a lot funnier. Maybe we get to see Damian dressing up as a lady and looking like that Black Butler episode where CL Phantom Hive was cross-dressing.
Psychiatrist Frederick Wertham picked up on this, famously accusing Batman and Robin of being lovers in his book The Seduction of the Innocent. Though seduction mainly focused on the violence and immorality of the crime and horror comics that were popular at the time, it's now mainly remembered for this accusation of homosexuality and pedophilia.
You just cited Frederick Wertham unironically. If you don't know who Frederick Wertham is, well, let's just say unironically citing him in the 50s to support your argument is the equivalent of unironically citing Jack Thompson in Eddie Sarkeesian right now.
Dick Grayson, that pretty bear-legged boy, has been a queering presence in Batman comics ever since. Sometimes this is deliberately played with for subversive intent or for laughs. Sometimes female characters are practically shoved into the narrative to disrupt the potential queer subtext. See Batwoman, Batgirl, A Different Batgirl, the TV shows Aunt Harriet, but the queering of Batman and Robin, and of Dick Grayson in particular, persists despite DC's intermittent attempts to combat it. Even as Dick aged out of the Robin role, these elements remained: youth, feminization, subtextual queerness and campiness, passivity in romantic relationships. When he shed the Robin role in 1984, with the support of his taller, stronger, much more aggressive girlfriend Starfire, he does so by stripping down just to the green bodysuit of his costume in front of his entire team. He then grows out of his hair and takes on a flamboyant costume with a plunging V-neck, while retaining a non-gendered name: Nightwing, not Batman.
You know, as Dick is stripping himself down, I imagine the writer saying this.
Exceptionally.
And the writer didn't show Nightwing's first outfit, which was none other than... Yep, that was Nightwing's original outfit. It's definitely the sort of thing that would make everybody jizz. I mean, fucking hell, he got a lot of class. And that's just the fan art. The original is even more... Look at that. That looks classy as fuck. Oh my god.
Beautiful.
in an old-fashioned kind of way.
But still, going to the writer's point, just because the costume looks doesn't mean that he's gay. For God's sake, he was with Starfire at the time.
2 years later, DC published Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, in which Batman is a perfectly cuboid, growling tank of a man, and the Joker is a lean, effeminate creature of pure, simpering evil. In this universe, where queerness is portrayed as dangerously defiant, Robin is dead, Dick's successor Jason, but the symbolism remains the same, and is eventually replaced by a girl. Now, Carrie Kelly is fantastic, but it's noteworthy that in this universe, the only acceptable young and delicate sidekick for Batman must be a girl. In the sequel, Dick is revealed to have become a Joker-like villain, just as campy and even more destructive.
Yes, that awful comic Dark Knight Strikes Again, aka DK2. I don't know why people like that comic, I really don't, but the thing about the DKR universe is they're not really canon, kind of like Elseworld stories in some ways. Carrie Kelly was barely even in the canon universe, maybe because she wasn't born yet.
2 years after that, DC had the Joker murder Jason Todd in the main continuity brutally with a crowbar. Fans could call a 900 number to vote on whether or not Jason should live or die. The dominant narrative these days is that he was overwhelmingly voted against, but the truth is that margin was only 72 votes out of over 10,000. Why did it become so crucial that fans believed that everyone wanted Robin to die?
Well, they didn't want Dick Grayson to die, they want Jason to die. At the time, people's consensus is that Jason was a terrible replacement for Dick Grayson. Batman just picked him up out of nowhere because he stole Batmobile's tires, which is a really stupid origin story to begin with. Advanced tech Batmobile of whose tires can be stolen by a couple of tire pirates. Anyway, as Robin, Jason broke off a lot of Batman's orders, became unnecessarily aggressive, and he gets the shit beaten up to him to the point where he dies. Jason's death makes Batman go nuts, so during the A Lonely Place of Dying arc, he gets approached by Tim Drake, who wants Dick to return as Robin to sort Batman's grief out. But Bruce and Dick have past issues that prevent them from doing so, which eventually makes Tim Drake the new Robin. Tim Drake is a hell of a lot better than Jason, mainly because out of all the Robins, Tim is one of the few Robins that took his job seriously. Like, really seriously. He is, or at least acts like Robin from the Teen Titans cartoon. This determination is helped thanks to the fact that he became Robin on his will to help on Batman's problems. So far, Tim Drake is doing well as Robin. He even went on to the Teen Titans and people love him. So even if people really wanted Dick and Jason to die, not a lot of people wanted Tim to die. He's a fairly competent Robin. Not a lot of people also wanted Stephanie to die too. Your basis to why fans wanted Robin to die is because Frank Miller wrote him as the Joker once, and the vote for Jason Todd's death. One of those isn't really because of the fans.
Jason wasn't the last Robin to die either. In 2004, Stephanie Brown, the fourth Robin, was also brutally murdered, this time by Black Mask with a power drill. A year later, Jason Todd returned from the grave as the gun-toting supervillain anti-hero Red Hood.
Stephanie Brown. Oh, poor Stephanie Brown. Incredibly underrated and underutilized character in the entire Batman universe, let alone DC.
Why do Robins die in brutal ways? Why must the male ones be rehabilitated as vicious killers? See also, Wade, Damian.
So far, out of the 6 most well-known Robins, 2 dies in a brutal way, and 2 are vicious killers. And being the vicious killer is not necessarily tied up on being men. Unless if that's what you're implying, which is horrible.
Why do Dick Grayson fans always feel like the crosshairs are on him? Sure, Robin exists to lighten up Batman, and so it makes a certain kind of sense that in eras that trend darker, as the late 80s and mid-aughts certainly did, whoever's wearing the pixie boots will be the first on the chopping block. But I think there's something additional at play here.
Ooh, conspiracy.
Despite being one of the oldest characters in the superhero comics, Dick Grayson is hugely popular with young female and or queer fans. He's lithe, pretty, and acrobatic. He's gentle and friendly. He's about as objectified as male characters ever get in comics. Female characters regularly comment on his looks and compliment his butt.
And it's perfectly okay when we do it. Look at that fucking ass, ladies. Am I right? Am I right?
But God forbid those men who want to objectify women. God fucking forbid those men.
Lights out! Now you want to get nuts? Come on! Let's get nuts.
He's sensitive and cries on page semi-regularly. He loves his adoptive father figures and little siblings and isn't afraid to show it. He dates women who can beat him up and has long-running and deeply intimate friendships with his male peers. Writers who aren't afraid to let how much they love him bleed through the page, like Devin Grayson and Tim Seeley, also like to dance to the close edge of his sexuality as the company will let him. For fans who want to see Dick revealed to be textually, unequivocally queer, this can feel like insensitive queerbaiting, but for readers who'd rather keep their comics as straight as a 9-panel grid, it's alarming.
Why? Why is it alarming? You haven't given me, a straight man, a single good reason why Dick Grayson is alarming to me.
It is perhaps worth noting that Dick was raped by a woman during an arc in the early 2000s. It was not a well-handled story and has been largely expunged from continuity, but it's yet another way that Dick has been coded as female and or queer within the uber macho world of comics. You'll never see Batman sexually assaulted while disassociating.
You'll never see Batman sexually assaulted. Previous slide, previous slide, previous slide, previous slide, there! For those of you who missed it, Damian Wayne was basically a product of rape between Batman and Talia al Ghul. The last time I checked, Talia spiked Batman's drink to the point where they had sex. Talia al Ghul is the daughter of Ra's al Ghul, the leader of the League of Assassins, Liam Neeson from Batman Begins. You can see why and how he is being hated among the fandom, and that the best way for DC to save him without changing too much of his evilness is to turn him into Seal Phantom Hive from Black Butler. I don't know, just my stupid idea. And I love that you used the word Dick Grayson being raped during an arc in the early 2000s as coded as female. Are you saying that men are incapable of being raped? Are you saying that only women can be raped? The fuck?
Even to a guy like me, that's cold.
As popular as Dick is with large sections of the fanbase, there is a certain breed of reader who hates him. Many fans feel that Batman was ruined with the addition of Robin. You know, the Batman who existed for a whopping 12 issues before Dick's debut, the one who fought vampires and carried a gun decades before any of these fans were born. They blame Robin's presence for ruining the Schumacher movies. He was considered too ridiculous to be included in the Nolan franchise, except at the very end, in the most oblique of ways. So many of the men who have shaped Batman in the popular imagination have made snide comments about Robin and the joyful camp he represents. Miller, Byrne, Nolan.
Oh, so those three people made snide comments about Robin and therefore Robin is not cool. It just goes to show me that those three people don't really read comics, because Robin and any other Batman sidekicks are actually pretty damn cool. I would even dare to argue that they're a lot cooler than Batman. Seriously, go read some comics.
I say it's precisely because of his vulnerability that a certain type of male fans hates Robin. It's because he's beloved by young queer and female readers. It's because he's so often placed in a traditionally female role. Because he's so easy to read as queer. Because he's beautiful and graceful and overflowing with love. If you're the type of reader who can only deal with enjoying funny books about men in tights if they're carrying 12 guns and breaking each other's faces, Dick Grayson is quite frankly terrifying.
So your argument is Dick Grayson is hated because he's feminine? He's hated because he's written for gay people? Are you implying that it's homophobia that caused all the Robins to die? Are you implying that it's homophobia that caused people to hate Dick Grayson? I don't see how Dick Grayson is OMG terrifying. I can't understand your logic here. Oh, and the article shows Dick's ass on his tight spandex and says, Dick put his best feature forward. Objectification. It's okay when we do it.
Hi.
DC's clearly hoping to generate sales through shock value, gore, and absurdity, but I can't help thinking that the fact that the demographics who love Dick Grayson overlap so completely with those who have been the most vocally opposed to Hydra Cap is an added bonus. It's yet another attempt to reclaim him from his marginalized fans and recast him in the rigidly masculine mode DC's current top brass is more comfortable with.
Wait. So, what you're saying here is DC was loved so much by the gay people, and now with this storyline, with this miniseries, the New Order series, they're making him so masculine that it caused gay people to not like him. That's fucking stereotypical.
How high are you?
Dick Grayson has been around for a long time. He outlived Wertham and he'll outlive this too, but that doesn't make the new order okay. And the more the industry frankly backpedals away from a more diverse and culturally sensitive audience, the shorter it renders its own lifespan, not Dick Grayson's.
So, to conclude this article, this writer lost her mind. She cited Wertham. Unironically, she's implying that homophobia is the one that caused Dick Grayson and so many other Robins to die and die and die. She thinks that men can't get raped and that men being raped is coded as women. She forgets the fact that Batman was raped and results in Damian Wayne, although to be fair, that entire event was retconned so that it's not rape. But then again, so is the entire New Earth retcon. It's completely okay when she objectifies the men, and she seriously thinks that Dick Grayson was owned by queers, and that this little mini-series is gonna take Dick from the queer fans away to his more masculine audiences, as if his more masculine audiences don't really like him in the first place. You lost your goddamn mind, lady. Holy shit.
Pull over. I think I'm gonna be sick.
That's all for the video today. If you like this, you can go ahead, click like button, and subscribe for more. If you wish, you can support me on PayPal or Patreon. And thanks for watching.